While you're holding a flashlight, this perk activates. When you shine a flashlight, you gain 50% haste. And also, when you successfully blind the killer, they will become hindered for 6 seconds. Your blind also turns into a slow, which is pretty strong. This works not only with flashlights, but also flashbangs and blast mine as well. 20% hindered penalty lets a survivor drag out a chase for a pretty long time. I'm pretty sure this is going to be meta. Boon Illumination. Survivors within this boon's range can see the aura of all chests and generators. Now, I'm not a big fan of this one. I think it's pretty useless because most players by now know where all the gens are. They have an idea of where the chests spawn. Well, there is one other effect that this perk does, which is lets you cleanse and bless totems faster, which is decent, but it's still not appealing enough, in my opinion, to warrant bringing this perk. It's one of his weaker ones. And then Deadline. This perk activates when you are injured. Skill checks appear 10% more frequently when repairing or healing. And the penalty for missing skill checks is reduced by 50%. It does synergize with a couple perks like Fogwise and Hyperfocus and Autodidact, but you do have to be injured, which you're not always going to be injured unless you're running no mither, but then you're wasting a perk slot, so it's like, even if you do combine it with all of the proper perks, I still don't think it's going to be that useful. Now, that's the new survivor for you, what he looks like. There's also a lot of changes to the killers as well. Hillbilly got an update. Basically, Hillbilly just got a straight buff. All of his stuff got buffed. The way his chainsaw used to work was that you could only use it for a limited amount of time before it became overheated, but they changed it to where you can use it as much as you want, and as a matter of fact, if you use it too much, it actually benefits you. It goes into overdrive instead of overheat. Basically increases your sprinting speed and reduces the cooldown. It kind of made me scratch my head though, because this was years ago that they put the overheat mechanic on Hillbilly, they nerfed him. And the reason they nerfed him in the first place was that people were complaining about his mobility. They were like, "Oh, there's no period of time where I have a chance to do gens because he can just zoom back and forth between the gens, and I can't do anything because he's so fast. There's no cooldown to his power. What am I supposed to do?" So then that's when they gave him the overheat mechanic. That sort of solved the problem of him being able to patrol the gens really easily. Now they have just completely done a 180 here and given him that power back and more. I am curious to see how this is going to play out, if people are going to start complaining about him again, or if people will think that he's in a better spot, if he's overall, if this decision was a good one. Then they also changed Sadako quite a bit. So these are the Sadako changes. They changed it to where Sadako can gain Bloodlust while she's demanifested. So that's going to help her in chases quite a bit. The killer power, in the live version of DBD, there is a cooldown between her teleports, but they removed the cooldown. So she can teleport as much as she wants now, provided the TV is turned on. They increased the condemned that survivors get from being near a TV to 1 full stack. But to counter this, they made it so survivors can see the auras of any TVs within 16 meters. It's a lot less likely for Sadako to sneak up on you because you know what TV is nearby that she could use to get to you. Because prior to this, you could not see the TV's auras. Surprise attacks are a bit harder. One scary thing that they added was that hooking a survivor locks in their condemned progress. So let's say you have 3 stacks of condemned when you get hooked. Those are now permanent. You cannot get rid of them for the remainder of the match. So you still use the tapes to get rid of condemned, but they no longer grant protection from condemned. So you can't just hold a tape for the entire match. and not gain condemned anymore. You also no longer gain condemned if you're hit while holding a tape. So you can hold a tape and it's not a big deal. They did change the retrieval and insertion time to 1 second instead of 2 seconds, which is kind of weird because sometimes, like let's say if you have a lot of condemned status on you and you're in a chase and there's a TV nearby and you don't want that condemned status to be applied to you permanently when you get hooked, because they reduce the amount of time it takes to insert tapes into TVs, now they can do it mid-chase and get away with it. I don't know how to feel about that one. Then she had a couple add-on changes here, nothing that cool. And then this is a very interesting change here. They made it so, because a lot of people were complaining about 3 gens, right? So they kind of fixed the 3 gen issue. A really big one is that each generator can only be kicked 8 times. It doesn't just apply to kicks though. These are considered regression events. A regression event is anything that causes a generator to regress. So that could be like pain resonance or surge. When you hit the limit, you can no longer regress a gen by any means. You can't use kicks, add-ons, or perks. But they did buff the regression amount from 2.5% to 5% for breaking gens. So pretty big buff. Oh, another big one. This is a big one. Gen tapping. You can't do it anymore. You have to repair a gen at least 5% to stop it from regressing. 5% means that you'll have to repair a gen for about 5 seconds before. Is this going to make the game healthier? I mean, 8 regression events? I think it's pretty generous. Like, how many times do your killers really kick gens 8 times? 1 gen 8 times in a match. It's really only during those 3 gen situations. Like, sometimes the gens don't even get kicked once. Like, I would say it's probably healthy. Probably healthy here. Okay, so they made a bunch of changes to Blight. Not his power, but his add-ons. Let's see if I can find them. There's one thing that they changed that everybody is complaining about, and that is these 2 red add-ons right here. So this red add-on lets Blight rush for as many times as he wants. There is no cooldown. He can use it forever if he wants to. The only drawback is that he gets a 20-second cooldown to his power after he lands a basic attack with his power. It's pretty BS. Like, when you're playing against this, it's so unfair. It's like you can't even do anything. It's really stupid. I don't even know, like, whose bright idea was it? It's like an out-of-season April Fool's joke. And then there's this one, which is also really dumb. It basically nullifies the penalty for rushing, which is the reduced turn rate. So if you combine these 2 add-ons, he can rush as much as he wants, and then he can turn as much as he wants. There's pretty much nothing you can do as a survivor. Compared to some other iridescent stuff, like take a look at the Huntress here. Like, yeah, this can down people in 1 hit, but then there's a huge drawback, which is it reduces the number of hatchets you can carry to 1. With the Blight add-ons, it's like, oh, I have to wait like 20 seconds. Not a big deal. I do want to show you guys this. Check this out. They added a field of view slider. And of course you do want to max it out because, you know, you can see more as the killer. It only took them 8 years to add this, by the way. Pretty good job. Good job, BHP. And since Shadowborn no longer increases the field of view, it does something different now. When blinded by any means, you gain 10% haste for 10 seconds. 10% haste is pretty strong. I think they buffed Grim Embrace here. After moving 16 meters away from the hook, all generators are blocked for 12 seconds. And then after you reach 4 tokens, it blocks all gens for another 40 seconds. 48 plus 40, which is 88 seconds of stall time. So this might be worth taking. They did nerf save the best for last, just a little bit. Instead of 5%, it's now 4%. And also, if the obsession loses a health state by any means, you lose tokens. So it used to be that you had to basic attack the obsession to lose tokens. Now, if they lose a health state by any means, you lose tokens. And somebody in my Discord, they brought up this question. It's like, well, what if the survivor makes himself lose a health state? Like, they use plot twist or for the people. Do you lose tokens that way? And that's a good question. And I'm inclined to think that you still do, because by any means, well, by any means. So, yeah, the survivor can make you lose tokens. But yeah, those are all the major changes in the PTB. Thanks for watching, I'll see you all next time.